When it comes to learning jazz, it can be really helpful to know some micro jazz language, or a lot of people like to call these licks, little ideas you can play over chords or chord progressions. And I find that the blues is one of the best places to start for learning jazz language and blues language. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over 4 absolutely amazing killer jazz blues licks you're going to want to learn. Check this out. What's up, Brent here from LearnJazzStandards.com, which is a blog, a podcast, and videos all geared towards helping you become a better jazz musician. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification button below to never miss out on anything going on here. So last year I came out with a jazz blues course called Jazz Blues Accelerator, and I actually had a really good friend of mine who is an absolute expert jazz pianist, Keelan Dimmick, compose a bunch of licks, 26 licks for me as a free bonus for people entering into that course. And I'll be sure to link up Keelan's website below because you should really know who this guy is. He is absolutely phenomenal, as you're about to see. But I wanted to dig in today in this video on 4 of those 26 licks that he composed because they're just so great and so musical. And there's some ideas that you can start practicing and working on right away. So I'm going to go ahead and dig into these licks. I just think they're awesome personally. I know you're going to like them too. And let's see what we can learn from them. So we're here behind my computer right here. We're looking at this very first blues lick, which is the first 4 bars of a jazz blues. So I'm excited to have you listen to this in 1 second. It's such a great lick. This is just in concert C for today. Actually, for this handout, I had him do it in all 12 keys for every single lick that he did. But just for the sake of demonstration today, we're just going to do concert C. So let's first give this one a listen, and then we'll talk about it. Yeah, absolutely love this lick. Let's listen to this one more time. Now, this particular lick really just embodies the blues, like absolutely. And if you really look at this, there's not a whole lot of necessarily spelling out the chord changes. The entire point of this lick is to really utilize blues language. So you'll probably recognize minor pentatonic, and some people say the blues scale as well. And the big important note, right, when we talk about the blues scale is this one right here, right? So that would be the sharp 4, right? You could call it the flat 5, or they call it the blue note, right? So it's this kind of language, and right here we have this, even though this is over the 4 chord, right? This is the, if we're playing a C minor pentatonic, this is the flat 3 right here that's, really bringing out these bluesy sounds for us, right? We take a little look further here. We've got the flat 7 to outline that dominant 7 right there as well. So we're really taking these first 4 bars here and just playing some really bluesy language. So one more time, just for good measure, such a great sounding lick. Check it out. Awesome. So let's move on to the next lick here. This is a really cool one, a really interesting one, in my opinion, that Keelan wrote. And this is over the 4 chord. So when we move from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, you could play this either in the 2nd bar of the blues, or when you go finally into, I believe it's the 5th bar of the blues, when we land on the 4 chord for 2 bars. So take a listen to this one, and then I'll talk about how it works and why it's so great. All right, one more time, check this out. It's very short and sweet, but let's do this again. Yeah, killer, love this one. And what makes this one so great? So the big key thing here in this particular lick is that's really outlining F7 sus. Now, this is a great way to jazz up your blues right away. You could do this on the 1 chord, you could do this on the 4 chord, is make this a sus chord. So really, if we look at these first 3 notes here, okay, these first 3 notes, this is really just an F triad. So the notes are the 3rd, the root, so the 3rd, the root, and the 5th, right? So 3rd right here, and the root, and then the 5th right here. And what's this B flat right here? This is the 4, right? So this is the sus4 right here. So we have an F major triad with the 4 there. So actually nothing really outlining the 7. But then take a look at this next triplet right here. What's this? This is essentially, and this is kind of really cool, this is an E flat triad, okay? E flat. Now, as the notes pertain to the F7, the notes are the 9, the 7, and then the 4. Okay, so the 9, the 7, and the 4. So we have this 9th extension, and then the flat 7, and then the 4 that we're still repeating this this suspended sound. And then we finally land here on that A. And what is A? That is the 3rd of F7. So the 3rd being a really strong chord tone that if we land on that, it's really going to help bring out the chord changes. So one more time, let's listen to this one again. Whew, love that one. Let's move on to the next one. This is another really good one, okay? Now, this is really a great transition, and jazz musicians will do this all the time, to move from the 1 chord to the 4 chord. So particularly, this is going to happen in bar 4. So instead of just playing a regular C7, we're going to turn this into an altered 7. Now, what does that do? Essentially, when we turn this C7 into an altered 7, it gives this sense of tension. Now, what's an altered chord? An altered chord really means you can add any of the altered extensions. So 9, you can add a flat 9 and a sharp 9. You can add a sharp 11. You can do a flat 13, right? So when we see alt, it could be all of those, or you can pick and choose which ones. Either way, it's tension, and it really makes us feel like we're going to resolve to a 1 chord. So we call this a secondary dominant. So what's happening right here is suddenly the C7, instead of feeling like a 1 chord, now it feels like the 5 chord of F7. Does that make sense? We call this a secondary dominant, tonicizing another diatonic chord in the series. In this case, it's a 4/7 chord because we're playing the blues here. So that's what's happening here. So this is an altered lick. So let's listen to this really quickly. Whew. Let's listen to that again. Yeah, again, lots of triplets. So lots of triplets in this in these licks so far, which is obviously something paramount in jazz. Like triplet is the bass rhythm for all of swing. And bebop, it's everywhere. So what's going on here? What are the notes? So first we start right here, the D sharp. That's a sharp 9, right? Then we have the regular 9. Then we have the flat 9 here, right? C sharp is the flat 9. And then we have G sharp, which is the flat 13. And then, so yes. And then we have E, which is the 3rd, right, of C7. So we're hitting on that strong tone there, the 3rd. So we really have this chromatic movement down with all these tension notes, moving down further here until we resolve to C, which is the 5th of F7. So lots of tension with the altered and release on the 5th, which is a really baseline chord tone of the F7. So one more time, let's give this one a listen. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to the final lick that I want to go over. This is a really great one. I really enjoy this one because this is the one that really happens when we're turning around. Like we finished up with the 4 chord for 2 bars. Now we're going back to the 1 chord, and then we're going to do a turnaround to get to the 2-5-1 at the end of the form. So before I explain it, let's go ahead and give it a listen. That is bebop right there. That is all bebop. One more time. All right, so we'll listen to it again in just 1 second, but let's kind of look at what's happening here. So the main thing I really want to point out to you is, first of all, what Keelan has done in this particular lick is he's added the 4 chord to transition between the 1 chord and the 3 chord. So this is a very common chord progression. What this is a 1, 4, 3, 6. Okay, this is a dominant 6, right? So we have all kinds of secondary dominance things going on with jazz harmony. So 1, 4, 3, 6. Now there's other ways to get from the 1 chord to the 3 to the 6. Sometimes people don't even play the 3, they just go straight to the 6. So there's lots of other things we can do before we get to the 2 chord there. But in this particular case, kind of what I'd love to have you pay attention to is what we call enclosure. So first of all, there's a target note here, and the target note is G. Okay, what's G to C? That's the 5th. Because we start here with a non-diatonic note right here, right? We have this little slide into F sharp, non-diatonic. Now A is diatonic, right? A is what? It's the 6. And then we have G sharp, that's non-diatonic, leading into this G. Now we are landing on the F7 here, but I'm still kind of relating this phrase back to C7. And what we see here is we start from below and then above, and then land on the G. So what we call enclosures, when we're targeting a note from above and below, or below and above. And so when we're targeting a note by surrounding it like that, we call that enclosure. Okay, so this is something really important. Looking further, the other thing that I really want you to pay attention to in this line, so obviously all of the language is beautiful, but really what makes it sound like, wow, we're really arriving somewhere, is this note. C sharp. Now we're anticipating, what's C sharp, by the way? That is the 3rd of A7. So again, the 3rd, a strong chord tone to land on. Now we're anticipating it, which happens all the time, right? This is on the and of 2, right? This is the and of 2 rather than right on 3 where the A7 is landing. But this happens all the time. So we're landing on that 3rd, which really brings out the chord changes. So one more time, let's go ahead and listen to this. Awesome. Yeah, so those are the licks I want to share with you. These are amazing licks. Like I said, I usually compose a lot of my own music for my stuff, but I had Keelan do this, so do check him out below. But we can learn a lot just from these licks, and we can take some of these concepts and apply them further. So here's what I kind of want to get from you. What are some really awesome blues licks that you would recommend? Maybe leave some notation below, maybe leave a link to a recording, something like that, and just fill up those comments with as many different cool musical ideas and blues licks that we can share with one another. So if you need some help working on licks and how to practice them so they don't sound like they're just regurgitations or copy and paste ideas in your solos, be sure to check out this video right here. That's going to really help you get some training and info on that. And then make sure check out my free Boost Your Jazz Blues Masterclass. It's just a free 45-minute masterclass. I do offer my Jazz Blues Accelerator course at the end, but either way, you'll get a lot of value out of this masterclass. All right, that's all for today's video. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.